Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I've recently been through a divorce. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the stigma that surrounds divorce and how much of that is kind of in our head, and maybe a little bit of how much of that exists within the church culture. I remember when I first started going through the divorce process, having a difficult time just telling people that we were going to go through the divorce process. At church, the truth is, the vast majority of people have no idea what's going on in your home. So when the divorce news first gets out there, it is shocking to a lot of people. And a lot of people have no idea what to say to you about it. And so sometimes they don't say anything. But there's also a stigma that we carry within ourselves while we're going through that divorce process, especially very early in the divorce process. I know I felt kind of broken, like a lesser member of the church, maybe in somehow, some weird way that really doesn't make sense. Maybe it's because your family's kind of incomplete now, but there definitely are stigmas. One thing I kind of joke about is that sometimes I think people are afraid to talk to you about your divorce because they're afraid that somehow it's contagious. It's going to rub off on them and their marriage somehow. And maybe somehow whatever you have to say about your divorce will trigger one in their family or something kind of silly like that. I joke about that, but that's how it seems sometimes. The truth is there's probably a lot of reasons people don't talk to us about divorce. And there's a lot of reasons that we carry a fear of talking about that divorce. Whatever the case may be, there is a bit of a stigma about it. And so I have found a couple things overall have kind of helped me to deal with that stigma. One is to talk about it. Now, I don't run around to everyone I know saying, "Oh, hey, guess what? I'm divorced. Hey, I'm divorced." No one wants to be that crazy divorced guy or the crazy divorced woman in your ward. No one wants that. So that is not what I'm advocating for at all. What I say is, for instance, I had to give a talk in sacrament meeting and I spoke about the divorce. I had to I was asked to give a lesson in elders quorum. I spoke about my divorce in that lesson. And I spoke about it pretty openly and freely. I mean, I don't share any of the details of the divorce at all, but just about the divorce experience and how difficult it is to go through a divorce. I have found it a little easier for people to kind of come at ease when, if let's just say there's a group of people in my ward and we're all having a conversation and, they may talk about their wife, something, "Oh yeah, my wife did this," or "My wife did that." And I say, "Oh yeah, my ex-wife did that too one time and it was really funny." I don't hesitate to mention my ex-wife if it's an appropriate thing, right? I don't try to shove her into a conversation at all because that'd be just kind of weird. But if it's appropriate, I talk about her, and I never talk about her in a negative light either. And what I have found as I do that is it gives people permission to kind of indirectly permission, I should say, to speak about my ex-wife, especially if they know her. I don't want them to hesitate or fear that, "Oh no, I can't ever mention, his ex-wife to him." It isn't like that. It's not like that at all for me. And actually, it kind of makes it weird if they never do, especially when it's something that would be appropriate. So I try to be the one that breaks that ice. The other part of smashing that stigma within ourselves is really remembering that we are whole all by ourselves. That Christ, and especially when it comes to the church, Christ loved me individually. He loved me when I was in a marriage, and he's going to love me again once I'm an individual outside of a marriage again. Like, nothing changes there. And the purpose of going to church is to reconnect on a weekly level through the sacrament and through the spirit that we feel at church to reconnect with the Lord. That's why we go to church. So sometimes if people are awkward, sometimes people choose sides, sometimes people do all sorts of funny stuff when it comes to divorce. I just try my best to not contribute to that stigma, to try to alleviate that stigma. And the only way I know how to do that is to work on myself, to make myself and remind myself that I'm a whole person, that I am flawed, but that's what the church is for. To remind myself that I'm going to church to have a connection with the Lord, and He knows all the details of my divorce, and He still loves me. And on top of that, it helps me to just talk about it when it's appropriate. It gives others the permission to talk about it. One final thought about talking about it. I don't talk about it all the time. It's just, if it's an appropriate thing to come up, I bring it up. But as I've been willing to share my experience in divorce with other people and how difficult it is, most people in my ward aren't divorced. There are some who are. But I've had a couple people in my ward actually reach out to me very quietly and privately and tell me that if I need anything, they're willing to help. The other thing that's happened is something I never would have expected. Is there are people in my ward who've been through some really difficult life situations. Ones that I've never had to deal with and would hope to never have to deal with. And they've been willing, as I've been willing to share a little bit about my kind of the hurt and the troubles of overcoming everything with a divorce. They've been willing to talk to me about their troubles. And although we can't relate to each other on a divorce level, we can relate to each other on a life-altering, painful situation level. And in that, I have found so much inspiration and so much strength. And perhaps they found, I don't know if they found it for me or not. I can't speak to that. I just know that I have found great strength and great hope and great inspiration through their willingness to share with me their experience. And that came because I was willing to open that door to talk about my experience. So if you're dealing with the stigma, that it is there, we just have to admit that it's there. There's ways to overcome it. There's hope that I think as we're willing to be open about it, that we'll hopefully someday not have that stigma. But now we do. So we can deal with it. And it's okay. As I mentioned before, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This channel is not endorsed by the church. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just someone who's been through a divorce. Learned a few lessons. Hope what I've learned helps, and I've got a lot left to learn. Thanks for coming to my channel.